All right, I think everything's working. I think we're live. So let me get the disclaimers out of the way. You guys know the drill. We always go through this first, just in case there's somebody new to the live that hasn't heard them before. Probably not, but you never know. So this is a weekly live broadcast, pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am. You can come in here, maybe ask questions that I haven't been answering in the comments section or something like that. Pretty much any topics open. We don't have to talk about quail, rabbits, gardening, that kind of stuff. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I let the chat kind of direct the conversation. I do my best to respond to every live chat that comes through during the broadcast. The only things I ask is be polite, be family friendly. We can talk about controversial topics like politics and religion and all that kind of stuff. I believe you can have differences of opinions and still be friends. So don't go calling anybody names. Don't be hateful with anybody or any of those kinds of things. And like I said, keep it family friendly. Those are the only things I really ask. Let's jump into it. We got David Lister here. Good to see you, David. Improving Isaac. I don't know if you're Isaac and you're improving yourself, or if somebody else is Isaac and you're trying to improve them. Hopefully it's yourself, because trying to improve somebody else is difficult. But anyway, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Verna's here. Good to see you. Says Chris, first like. Well, thank you. We got 5 of them up there already. Haven't even hardly got started. Andy Rabbit, good to see you. Joe Sandy, hello. Who else is here? Brixton, hello to you. Woodtick says, good evening from Central Florida. Good to see you too. Thank you for joining us tonight. And Jacob, hello to you as well. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I did not get a video out this last week. I don't know why. I mean, I just had a hard time. I really sat there and tried to think, what can I do a video on? And I just couldn't come up with something, and I got tied up with some other things. So sorry about that. I'll do my best to get one out this weekend. Anyhow, let's jump in. Joe Sandy says, I got my incubator full of hatching chicks. They are so quick, I can't count. I set 46. Yeah, it's very tricky to count them. Your best bet on counting them, for sure. I know exactly what you're talking about. First of all, congratulations on your hatch. Hopefully that's a good. Hopefully you got a good number out of them. The best way I found to count them is just as you're taking them out of the incubator. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on and so on. Because other than that, it's almost impossible to get them counted. Joe, let's see, who was that? Jacob saying hi to somebody. Special K says, hello from Kentucky. Well, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Dane says, hello. Well, hello to you. Homestead Matters. Happy Friday Eve, y'all. Hope everyone is doing well. I am. Hopefully you are too. Costello Hobby Farm says, hey, from Alabama. Well, hello to you. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I actually set some eggs on the 6th, about 4 days ago. And tonight when I came in here to set the live broadcast up, I didn't check on them yesterday. But I do know, and I'm kind of jumbled up on this story here. I didn't check them yesterday. I came in today, getting ready for live broadcast, and thought, man, it's awful quiet in here. Went over and looked. The incubator was turned off. The plug, I've got a power strip on the bottom that's plugged into. It's on the floor, and it was turned off. I had to turn it on. Well, yesterday, I remember from the day before, actually, my robot vacuum was in here, and it was like it had gotten stuck on a cord or something. I think it turned the thing off. So I think it's probably been off for 2 days. I don't think there's any chance these eggs are going to hatch out. So I'm probably going to just dump them, save up, start over. But yeah, it's I didn't even notice it. A Jack of all trades says, hello from the South Mississippi, or from South Mississippi, I think that is. MS, isn't that Mississippi? Says, I finally made it at the beginning of a live. Well, hey, thank you for joining us tonight. We're glad to have you here. Whether it's the beginning, the middle, the end, whenever, you can join whenever you want to. We don't keep attendance here. Joe Sandy says there's at least one that has been pipped for 24 hours with no progress. I suppose he's dead. I can't see movement anymore. Yeah, probably so. But, I mean, you never know. But chances are 24 hours, probably not going to hatch at this point. Jacob says, I'm going to be putting about 90 eggs of my own. And in order from Guidro's Family Farm, going into the incubator tomorrow. Well, good luck with those hatches. Hopefully they go really well. Guidro's is a good supplier. I'm sure you'll get great results from those eggs. And then 90 of your own. That's going to be a pretty big hatch, I bet. Brixton says, one of my rabbits was due on Tuesday. Pulled hair, made a nest, couldn't feel and see babies moving. Swollen Swollen nickels. I think that's probably nipples. But now nothing. No babies. She's eating and no blood anywhere. Any tips? I mean, probably a false pregnancy of some kind. I actually had the same thing happen pretty much with, well, I haven't got her down and checked as close as you have, so I don't know if she's swollen anywhere or not. But you really, it's when you say you couldn't feel babies moving, you very seldom, if ever, do. It's incredibly hard to tell if a rabbit's actually got babies in her or not. But my rabbit, yeah, she went through the whole deal, pulled fur and everything, no babies, and it's been going on about a week now. So, we're about a week overdue. I'm calling it, and I'm probably just going to rebreed her, and that's about all you can do at that point. Who knows why? There could be multiple things. Could be some kind of stress factor. She, miscarried them early on and absorbed them back in. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why it wouldn't work. Don't rack your brain about it too much. You're going to drive yourself crazy trying to figure it out. My advice would be just rebreed her and go on with it. Now, give her a couple of days. If it's been, you said, she was due on Tuesday. Today is just Thursday. So I'd give her at least maybe through the weekend just to make sure. It's not unheard of for them to go 35 days or so before they actually have their babies. Homestead Matters says, just made a duck egg custard. Traded our chicken eggs for a friend's duck eggs and never realized how difficult duck eggs are to separate the yolks and whites. Good Lord. Yeah, I've never tried that either. I have made duck egg sandwiches, like a duck egg fried egg sandwich with a duck egg, and that's pretty fantastic. Duck eggs are really good. But I've never tried to separate the yolk from the white. I don't know. I do that with chicken eggs all the time. Just use my hands, basically. It's pretty easy, but never tried it with a duck egg. David Lister said, in the stupid question realm, once you start an incubation on eggs, can you safely add additional eggs? If so, how long after would be too long? Excuse me. Yeah, you could absolutely add more eggs if you wanted to. Now, the thing you're going to worry about is you're going to get different hatch days on them. So, and it's going to be hard to keep track of, like, what eggs did I set when are they due? And some are going to go into lockdown early. I mean, I would advise against it because it's just kind of a mess, unless you're talking about just like maybe next day or something. But I wouldn't go much past that, honestly. But you can do it however you want to. I mean, you can set keep adding eggs as much as you want. It's just you got to put those first eggs in there into lockdown right off the bat. Unless you had like 2 incubators going, and you marked eggs as you put them in to know what days they go into lockdown, and maybe 2 groups or something. And then you could move one group to lockdown and leave the others in for a little while longer, and then move them to lockdown whenever it's time or something. But it seems like a nightmare to keep track of to me. But hey, do it however you want to. And it's not a stupid question. It's just a question, man. Joe Sandy says, sorry about your eggs, Chris. Oh, it's all good. I've got, 10 eggs a day or so coming out of them. It won't be long. I can save up for another week and we'll be good. Homestead Matters says, that's unfortunate about the eggs, Chris. Sorry. No, I appreciate it, but again, not that big a deal. Just puts me a week behind. Well, actually like 2 weeks behind what I was normally expecting to have them hatch, but that's okay. I'm not in any big rush. It's all good. Verna says, David, it isn't advisable to add more eggs unless you have one of those big cabinet incubators. Well, that's a good thought. Costello Hobby Farm says, I have 20 eggs in the incubator and 10 in a brooder box, and also sold 3 baby bunnies today. Well, nice. 20 eggs in the incubator, 10 in a brooder box. You're going pretty good then. Congratulations on that. Tony from Toronto, good to see you. Jacob says, let's see, I finally getting my quail flock to where I want it. I still love hatching chicks, though. That's my favorite part of the process. Yeah, that is fun. I agree. But, you can always eat the extras. Dawn says, good evening, Chris, and everyone from South Central Illinois. Was a beautiful day. Today was pretty nice. We had a little bit of wind this afternoon. This morning when I went out to feed, like 6:30 in the morning, it was just calm. Nice. It was like 50 degrees. It was nice. But and we got up to like mid or low 70s, I think 72-ish, something like that. But the wind did pick up as the day went on, and it got to be pretty windy today, and that's never really that much fun. Verna says, Jacob, you can always try selling the chicks so you can keep incubating. Yep, you could sell some. That's true. Desert Homestead says, hey, Chris, I built a brooder like Dale's quail. What's your thoughts on outside in the heat, high temp around 105 degrees overnight, low 90 degrees? Would too hot be bad? They have to live when adults. So, okay, hang on. Let me reread this. You built a brooder like Dale's quail. What's your thoughts on using outside in the heat with high temp around 105 overnight, low of 90 plus? Would too hot be bad? They have to live when adults. So I don't know if there's more to that or not. I'm sorry. I'm trying to decipher this and make sure I'm exactly understanding it. So what you're wanting to do is you built a brooder like Dale's Quail Brooder, which I've got one. They're great. They work fantastic. You want to just use the outside temperature, no additional heat or anything like that for them. 105 is not too hot for them. That should be fine. I wouldn't put them in direct sunlight, though. That's a little different. I don't think that they would do well, like with just direct sun beating down on them. That's a little different than just 105 degrees, temperature in there. Now, when they're, newly hatched birds, I don't know that I'd just put it outside and rely on outside temperature to keep it. 90 plus overnight might be okay, but, for the first at least couple of days, maybe 3-4 days, maybe the first week, I'd try to maybe regulate the temperature a little bit better, and then maybe you can kind of move them to that after that. First couple of days are really the most important, though. You need to really make sure that they're right at about 100 degrees or a little over. They can chill pretty easily. Andy says, hey, everybody from Southwest Michigan here. It's kind of cold and damp around here, so very ready for some nice warm weather. Yeah, we're getting real close to having nice weather. We did have just crazy weather the last couple of weeks. Let's see. Early last week, we had storms come through. It was like early spring weather, 75 degrees during the day. Storms came through. We had tornado warnings going on. 4 or 5 days later, 3 days later, something like that, we had a freeze. It was like, it was at least a frost. It wasn't really a freeze, but it was a hard frost. And it got chilly for a couple of days, and now we're back to kind of going into spring. It's been back and forth. It's been kind of crazy. It's kind of funny, though. I watch the news in the mornings. I usually turn it on when I get up, and it's the local news. And we got this local weather girl that's on there. She's from California, so this is her first spring in Missouri. And you can just see her. She's like, well, we don't have any freeze, but we got the wind. If it's not one thing, it's another. And she can't get used to the weather around here. It's kind of funny to watch. You'd have to see it to really appreciate it. I don't do a good job of explaining it. But anyway, Joe Sandy says, I'll be taking out the dry chicks in the morning. I have a brooder question. The thermometer on the bottom of the brooder reads about 5 degrees cooler than the infrared gun. Which do I go by? Well, if in doubt, go by the one that's cooler and bump it up 5 degrees. I mean, 105 degrees is not going to be that big a deal for them. They should be just fine with it. Put your heat lamp in one spot, like back in the corner or something like that, the heat part, so that they can self-regulate. They'll get away from it if they need to. And watch your birds. If they're all like spread out as far away from the heat lamp as they can, it's a little too warm, turn it down just a little bit, or move it further away from the brooder if you're using a heat lamp or whatever. If they're all just huddled up underneath the heat lamp and as close together as they can get, well, it's a little too cool. You may need to warm it up just a little bit. But I would, like I said, I'd probably err on the side of the one on the bottom of the brooder and go with the 5 degrees higher. That's how I would do it. Joe Sandy says, it's been a year since my last hatch. I can't remember. Well, hopefully I gave you some information you can use and that makes sense. Don says, 11th like, LOL. To the lake to get some exercise in for my PT walking, hills and big steps a few times. So a bit late. Hey, it's all good. We don't keep attendance here, and hopefully you're getting better. I'm glad to hear that you're out walking now anyway. Desert Homestead, talking to somebody else. I'll let you guys do that. Verna says the thermometer on the bottom. I agree. David Lister says this incubation will be a dry hatch. Good luck. I hope that works out well. I don't know. Listen, you're in McAllister, right? So you should be pretty similar to what we are. Aside from like a couple of days last week, our humidity is pretty low right now. Still pretty low. I usually have, I'm looking at my hands because they're drying out right now. And it's one of the ways I can kind of tell that our humidity is real low. Plus my weather station tells me. But not the TV station, my weather station like the one we gave away a couple of weeks ago. Anyhow, it tells me what the humidity is. It's been pretty low, so I don't know how well. I mean, I'm sure it'll work okay. I usually do pretty well with dry hatches in the summertime. in the, when the like wintertime or like early spring before the humidity kind of gets up there, I'm usually having to add some water to get them to hatch out. But you never know. Andy Rabbit says, we got the quail/greenhouse frame put together today. Got to get the siding and roof up still. Well, that's exciting, isn't it? Hopefully that goes well. Let's see. We got Costello Hobby Farm says, do y'all recommend quail in cages or in an aviary? I don't know which I want to do. Okay, well, the only person I know that really does them in an aviary is Katrina from, I can't remember. Werner will remember who she is. You can do it however you want to. I personally would prefer to do them in cages because it just keeps them contained, keeps the eggs there. I don't have to go worry about stepping on them when I go into an aviary or something like that. Now, with that being said, I think an aviary setting is probably a little bit more natural for them. You're going to have to do a little bit more cleaning in it, of course. Depends on how big your aviary is and how many birds you have in it. But I think you'd have more likelihood of them maybe going broody and hatching their own eggs out in an aviary. There are probably some benefits to that. My big problems is trying to keep predators out and trying to keep it clean and searching for eggs. Those are the three reasons that I don't want to do aviary, that I want to do cages instead. In my cages, if I've got a sandbox for them, they lay almost all their eggs in the sandbox. It's super easy to gather up. I don't have to worry so much about predators because they're up high enough off the ground. Those are just my opinions on it, but you can do either one you want. And we'll see if somebody else has got some advice on that too. Improving Isaac says, I just got a trio of New Zealand rabbits. They're all still young. I have 21 chicks coming next week. I am Isaac. Good. So I'm trying to improve myself. Well, that's always good. Always work on yourself. Never stop. And says, I'm going to rename my channel when I make a video soon. Well, awesome. Congratulations on your new rabbits, your chicks that are coming next week. Hopefully all those are doing well and settling in. Where are we at here? Don says to Costello Hobby Farm. Good grief, I'm having a hard time talking. Says, I prefer cages, which are varmint proof and easy access. For me, I don't want to get eggs down on the ground in an aviary or clean out the large substrate. That's kind of my opinion too, but that's just me. Alan Pulley says, hey, Chris, and all from VA, sorry I'm late. It's all good. You know what I say every time, right? We don't take attendance. Verna's saying it for me. She says, Chris doesn't keep attendance. So it doesn't matter. You show up late, you show up early, you show up middle way through, or just 10 minutes before we close. We appreciate you being here either way. Joe Sandy says, let's see, a great blue heron helped himself to a bunch of my pond fish yesterday. Sad. Some of them were over 15 years old. Caught him on camera, but too late. Oh, that's terrible. My grandma used to have a pond. I guess it's still there. It's just not my grandma's house anymore. It's my aunt's house now. It was her daughter, so in the family still. But yeah, one time she had a great blue heron at her pond getting the fish. Hopefully that's not a reoccurring issue. Chris Elrod says hi. Hello to you too. Cindy Rapp from Minnesota. Good to see you. Let's see. Poodle Daddles, I think it is, says, which quail egg peeler do you prefer at the time? Well, I only have one quail egg peeler. It's in my Amazon shop. I added it last week. I just got it in. I've only used it once, but so far it's worked pretty well, and it's pretty cheap. It was like $32, I think, shipped from Amazon. So go check that out. I don't remember what it brand. It's some kind of weird name brand. It's probably direct from China. But it's a brand that I can't pronounce probably. But go check out my Amazon shop, and you can see which one I'm using in there. It's working great. Joe Sandy says, as of yesterday, I'm the proud owner of my very own poop machine, a Holland Lop. Well, awesome. Congratulations on that. Costello Hobby Farm says, LL, I could definitely do a dry hatch down here in Bama. Yeah, I imagine you could. Let's see. Where are we at here? Verna says, right now in my apartment, the temp is 76. Humidity is 47%. Yeah, but you probably got storms moving through, don't you? Or you have the last day or two, I think, if I remember right. Or maybe it was last week, wasn't it? I don't know, honestly. I'd have to, I can check my app to tell you what our humidity is outside right now, but I can tell you it's probably pretty dry because I gotta find my app real quick. There it is. Okay. Let's see how quickly this pulls up, and I'll tell you. 64 degrees. Where's humidity on here? I can't remember. 30% humidity, so a little higher than I would have expected. Let's see, I think that's the weather forecast. Let me look at what my actual. Yeah, 30% on the outdoor sensor. So 30% humidity. So, if it was up in the 45, 50% humidity, that would be probably pretty good for dry hatching. But 30%, that's actually not too bad. They might do fine with dry hatching. Katrina is so and tear. Thank you. I was having such a hard time, and I know that. I just was having a hard time coming up with it. Yeah, Katrina from Sow and Tear. She has a YouTube channel. She does aviaries. If you want to know about that, you can watch her channel. I'm sure she's got some good videos on it. And she's pretty responsive as far as I know. So you might be able to even reach out to her, and she would be happy to answer some questions. Occasionally she jumps in the live broadcast. I don't know if she's here tonight or not. A jack of all trades says, I'm new to quail and old pro at chickens. I let my chickens have much more space than recommended. Do quail benefit from more space? I keep seeing 3 per square foot. That just seems like a lot. You can do it however you want to. Verna's saying that you don't want to go over 1 per square foot or there will be territorial aggression. You don't want to go over 1 square foot per bird. She's saying you don't want to. Maybe, Verna. I've raised quail a lot of different ways, and I've had, like right now, I think I've got 12 birds in my hutch that is 8x3, so it's at 26 square feet. So that is, it's over 1 square foot per bird. I'm not having any issues with aggression, but it is possible. It depends a little bit on what kind of birds you're raising. I raise the jumbo pharaohs. I don't have any issues with that. They've all been raised up together. Now, if you do try to add adult birds into the existing flock, doesn't matter how much space you have, there's going to be a territorial aggression with them. 3 per square foot, I agree, does sound a little bit crowded. It's not as bad as you think, but I only really do that when I'm doing meat runs and growing them out. That's when I kind of crowd them in there pretty heavy because they're only crowded for like the last week and a half or so before I get them processed and they hit full size. But you can go however many you want to. 1 bird per square foot's a pretty good ratio that you're not going to have any problems with, and it's going to work out okay. It's not overly crowded. It does seem like 1 bird per square foot would be a lot, but they kind of huddle together anyway. It's not really that big of a deal. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but yeah. And again, to Verna's point, I mean, it's possible. Yeah, you give them too much room, you might run into some issues with some territorial aggression where they kind of form cliques or something like that. But it's never been that big of an issue for me. And I've had well under 10 or well under 1 square or way more than 1 square foot per bird in my hutches before and never really had much of an issue with it. Improving Isaac says, I got Timothy grass instead of hay by accident. Is that okay for rabbits? Verna's already answered that. She said, yeah, they love Timothy grass. I agree. Timothy grass is just fine. Andy Rabbit says the same thing. It is good for rabbits. Yep, there is no problem with Timothy grass, Timothy hay are the same thing. It's just Timothy hay is dried out. That's it. So it's fine. You can feed it to them. Now, the caution I will give you is don't switch them over drastically from pellets and try to give them just a diet of Timothy grass. You can give them that as an offering, but make sure that you kind of introduce it a little bit slowly, especially with the fresh green stuff. It can be a little bit of a challenge for them to adjust their diet to that. Hay is not a big of a deal for some reason, but when it's fresh and green, Timothy grass, you might want to introduce it a little bit slower. So just give them a little bit at first, give them a day or two to get used to that, increase it a little bit more, and then you'll be fine. Desert Homestead says, to clarify, they're in the shade. I have a heat lamp with Inkbird. They will live outside in a slightly redneck style hutch when they are adults, so need to acclimate to heat. How would the babies do in 105 to 110 temp? They should be fine. You don't have to worry about air conditioning or anything like that. They should be fine. The biggest concern is really, I don't know, it gets up to 160 or something, you might have a problem. But 110, 105 to 110, that's not that big of a deal. We get that temperature in the summer all the time. My birds do just fine with it, and the babies do too. I wouldn't worry about it. Just you don't want them to get too cold. That's going to be the issue. And really, until they get their feathers in much below about, I mean, for the first week anyway, I like to keep them right about 100 degrees. The first several days at least, the first 2-3 days, that's really critical. After that, they pretty much double in size every day for the first couple of days or the first week anyway. And after about 4 or 5 days, something like that, I'll drop the temp about 5 degrees. So that brings it down 95-ish, 90 degrees, somewhere right around in there. And, then then I just kind of every about 3 days or every 2 days or something like that, I'll drop it another 5 degrees because I use the Inkbird as well. It makes it super easy to do that. Joe Sandy says, Isaac, Timothy grass is hay. Well, Timothy grass is, I mean, if it's dried out, yeah, it's hay. If it's still green and kind of fresh, it's Timothy grass. But I imagine if you bought it, it probably is hay. It's probably already dried out. Otherwise, it would mold, I would think. Cindy Rapp says, it's so dry here, critical fire danger, and the pond is almost dry. Snow has finally melted. Yeah, we were under fire warnings for a long time. We've been under a drought for a long time, but we've been getting some rain. It's actually rained pretty good the last couple of weeks, like aerial flooding rain. So Verna's saying her outside humidity is 61%. Yeah, that's pretty high. Dawn says, I ordered the quail egg peeler last Thursday night, though, through Chris's link. It won't be here until April 13th to 17th. Love Prime, I tell you. Wow, that's kind of long shipping. I wonder if they got like backward, because it went pretty quick for me. It was just a couple of days. But actually the 13th, you ordered it last 13th. Yeah, that's still, I mean, that's like Sunday. So it's still a week and a half. That's a while. Improving Isaac says, okay, thanks for the clarification. I've never bought hay before. Yeah, no problem. And you don't absolutely have to feed them hay. You can avoid it altogether, and they'll do just fine. Joy from Western Oregon, good to see you. Let's see. Alan says, do you feed your grow-out birds the same feed as your breeders? Yeah, well, really, it's more like I feed my breeders the same as my grow-out birds, my young birds. I feed all my birds game bird starter from the time that they hatch out forever. I mean, that's all I feed them is game bird starter. It's a fairly high percentage game bird starter. Hang on a second. Let me take this call real quick and see who this is. This is a local call. It may be important. I don't know. So, this is Chris. Yeah, how are you? Yeah. Yeah. You should be fine on Saturday. I got something to do Saturday afternoon, but I'll be here in the morning. So, probably going to try to get the yard mowed a little bit and stuff. So, I'll be here. Yeah, you don't have to worry about cleaning up too much, but yeah, you should be fine to come over and get the cutting done. All right, sounds good. I'll see you then. All right, take care. Bye. Yeah, that was the guy that's taking the wood from that tree that I've got down. He wanted to know if he could come over and cut. Right now, they've come over and they're cutting up the wood into pretty good sized pieces because they're going to load it on a trailer, take it and split it and all. So they're just cutting it all, kind of stacking it up, and then they're going to come over with the trailer and haul it all off. So he wanted to know if he could come over Saturday morning to do that. And I said, yep, you can. You guys heard probably. Okay, so yeah, I feed all my birds a game bird starter. It's a fairly high protein, like 23%, 25%, something like that, I think. Sometimes I go, it depends on where I get it from. I can get up to a 30%. I like to get a pretty high protein, 25% or more. And that's what all my birds get. I just feed them all that. Andy Rabbit says rabbits can 100% live without eating hay as long as they have full ratio pellets. Yeah, absolutely. If you're feeding a commercial pellet, then you're going to be fine. Yeah, you don't have to have hay with it. But if you want to feed them hay, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Verna says, in a cage, I usually had 3 per square foot. Yeah, you can absolutely do that if you want to. Nothing wrong with that. Jack of all trades says, yes, thank you. I'm not sure what you're thanking me for. I guess probably my response, whatever it was, I've forgotten by now. Costello Hobby Farm says, so I'm having a hard time finding hay right now for my rabbits. Will they be fine on just pellets, or should I try harder to get them some hay? I hate going to the store and pay $20 for a small bale. Nope, they'll be fine. I think we've already answered that one. You probably got that in before we got the answer out. But yeah, they'll be perfectly fine without hay. Don't worry about it. Joe Sandy says, I was in TSC today getting supplies, and the cashier asked me how I keep my quail alive. He said his experience is they want to kill each other. That's been my experience since I started this, but I've only been in this for a year. I think a lot of it, I mean, there's a couple of things. I think a lot of it has to do with the breed you're getting, the kind of quail you're getting. In my experience, other than the jumbo meat makers, I've had aggression problems with any of the fancy colors I get. The white ones were the worst. They were just super aggressive, beat up on each other and everything else around them. They were terrible. So I think it really has to do a lot with, I don't know what it is. Something about isolating those genes to get those different colors, I think breeds aggression into them a lot of the times too. Yeah, I haven't had too many issues with the Jumbo Pharaoh. They seem to be the calmest, the mellowest, the easiest to get along with. Again, don't mix adult groups together. If you're going to add more to your flock, add them in at like 2-3 weeks. When you move them outside, just put them in the adult hutch, and they usually integrate just fine. But if they're adults and you try to put them in the hutch with existing adults, they're almost always going to be some aggression problems you run into. But other than that, I don't have too many. Dawn says, I like 8 jumbos in a 2x3 cage, but I have had some cages where only 4 get along, 5, and some mean hens I shoved in with a roo to do her in, and they lived happily ever after together. So that was kind of hard for me to follow, but I think I got it. Basically, you're saying you generally put 8 jumbos in a 2x3 cage. So that would be 8 in a 6 square foot cage. So a little over 1 bird per square foot, but not 3 per square foot, not quite that crowded. So, that works out fine, I'm sure. Then you said you've had some cages where only 4 get along, 5, and some mean hens. So you shoved in with a roo. You took the mean hens, put them in with a rooster to try to mellow them out, and it worked, right? Good. Aquatic News Network says, howdy, Earthlings. Well, hello to you too. Thank you for joining us. Joe Sandy says, I continue to have more and more hens with bloody vents. Cannot determine why. 1 or 2 would be a coincidence. I've had 5 or 6 in the past month. I have 2 separated at the moment from the others. I wonder if there's a feed issue of some kind. If there's something, and you said they were pecking them terribly. Yeah, when there's an open wound, the other birds are going to pick on it, no matter where it is. That's just what they're going to do. It's going to happen. So I don't know. I mean, are you feeding a calcium supplement to your birds or something like that? I wonder if that may have something to do with it, or something to do with the feed. I'm wondering what are you using for feed? The protein level, the protein percentage, the calcium, that kind of information on it. I'm not really sure of any. Let me see if I can figure that out. See if I can find something. Yeah, okay. Google says to consult a veterinarian. I wouldn't do that. Coccidiosis is one of the things that can cause that. Apparently, I don't think so. That's more like bloody diarrhea. That's not really the vent. Injury or trauma. I mean, I'm starting to lean towards maybe there's a nutritional deficiency or something like that. I don't know. Let's see what we can figure out. No calcium supplement. I mixed a game bird starter 27% with 16% chicken layer to get the correct calcium. How much calcium is in your game bird starter? It should be fine. I'm wondering if that chick layer might be causing some issues. I don't know why it would necessarily, but maybe it's decreasing the amount of other nutrients in there, and that may be causing some issues. I don't really know. That'd be my guess. I'm not a nutrition expert necessarily, but that would be my guess. I'm trying to get back to where I lost. There we go. Dawn says, anyway, hopefully I would try maybe check your calcium level on your game bird starter. If it's like in the 1.5% range, that's plenty of calcium. They don't need any more than that. And I would try to remove the chick starter or the chick feed from it, the chick layer, and see if that clears up your issue. That's the only thing I know to do, honestly. Dawn says, my 5-day-olds, today I dropped to 92 degrees with a 2-degree drop before the Inkbird kicks back on, and they're doing fine. Awesome. Yeah, that's probably about 5 days old, roughly, is when I tend to drop them down a little bit. So about the same. And that works out pretty well for me usually. CF Deckham says, been starting out with some Coturnix quail. Just went out and checked on my 6-week-old quail, and they are one male, and there was one male randomly dead. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, there's so many reasons that could happen. Don't drive yourself crazy about it. If it's just one bird, it just happens. Verna says, just dead, no wounds. How many hens to roos do you have? Yeah, maybe. I mean, they're 6 weeks old. They're probably not crowing yet. It's probably not an issue with territory and that kind of stuff, but could be. I'm guessing if there were wounds, you would probably tell us, but who knows? I mean, there's multiple reasons why that can happen. If it's one bird, just chalk it up to who knows, failure to thrive for whatever reason, and I wouldn't worry about it too much until you start seeing other kinds of issues. Improving Isaac says, thanks everyone. I've set an alarm on the phone to try to tune in weekly. I've got to run and work on the car a bit. God bless. You too, buddy, and we'll see you hopefully again in the future. CF Deckham says, I haven't done an official count of males to females. There are 15 in a 2x4-ish hutch. I think there were 7 female, 8 male. Yeah, that's definitely too many roosters if that's the case. You want really one rooster for every 5 to 6 hens to ensure that the hens are not getting overly bred. Sorry, something under my desk, cords or something. I'm getting my feet tangled in. To make sure the hens are not getting overly bred, and then also to make sure that you'll run into aggression issues if you have way too many roosters, and you have way too many roosters. But at 6 weeks old, that shouldn't be the issue quite yet unless they're already starting to crow. If they're already starting to crow, you need to get some of those roosters out of there, and you're going to need to do it within the next week or two anyway. Verna says, oh, too many roosters, 4 or 5 hens per roo, or there are problems. Yep, pretty much. I do 5 or 6, but yeah, it's about the same. Let's see. Dustin says, Stevie Wonder ringtone. Yep, it is. Yeah, Stevie Wonder. You got to love some Stevie Wonder. Come on. Says also, hen to egg, or egg to hen ratio you're getting on that feed. Egg to hen ratio? You mean how many eggs? I get an egg a day from all my hens. I mean, they all lay an egg a day for the most part. Occasionally one, maybe I'll get one that didn't lay one day or something, but for the most part, it's an egg a day. CF Deckham says, okay, they just hit 6 weeks today, so was supposed to finish out another hutch this weekend and separate them out. Yeah, and if you don't, I don't know what you're doing with the extra roosters, but honestly, what I would probably do with them is just give them another week in there and then eat all the extras. That's what I would do. Unless you have another, you plan on but you don't have that many hens. So you can do it however you want to, but that was how I would do it. Dawn says, Chris, can you explain a commercial rabbit pellet, Chris? I figured going to the farm supply store should be good, like where I get my game bird crumbles. Yeah, that's a commercial rabbit pellet. Something that's sold through a feed store or something like that would be a commercial rabbit pellet. Something that a feed mill makes and puts together and bags up and you buy in a bag. That's what I mean. G. Michael Jr. says, good evening, Chris, and all. Question, how many eggs do you think you get every year to include hatching and eating? By the way, great ringtone. Thank you. That is a good one. That's one of the better songs. Let's see, how many eggs? I don't know, man. I get it. It depends on how many birds I have at the time. Right now, I haven't really ramped up at all for spring, and I usually don't keep more than about a dozen hens because that's plenty of eggs for me. Sometimes I'll get a little bit higher than that, but not usually. So they pretty much lay an egg a day all year long for the most part. That you can do the math. Say maybe average out to like 10 eggs a day, 350 days a year, whatever it is. And, so that's what, a little over 3,500, 335 times 10, 350 eggs a year or something like that. That seems low. Is my math off? Anyway, I can't do math while I'm talking to you. You can figure it out, I guess, but hopefully that helps. Costello Hobby Farm says, my wife crochets a lot and wants me to get Angora rabbits. Anybody know anything about them? I'm not real familiar with them. I mean, I know that they do produce, like, I mean, I know you have to brush them out. They do require a little bit of maintenance to keep them from getting like matted up and all that kind of stuff. They make apparently a pretty good wool. I just don't know much about them. Let's see, it's Keone Walaka, I think it is, says one of my 2-week-old kits was found dead, with quotes, from the cold outside the nest box a few days ago. Hair dryer and massage brought it back to life. Always makes me feel so good when that happens. Yeah, absolutely. Always don't just count them dead. Always try. I don't usually use a hair dryer, but what I usually do is put them in like a Ziploc bag. I don't zip it closed. I leave it open, but put them in a plastic bag in the sink with some warm water in there. So they're not getting wet, but they're getting the warmth off the water. And that's worked pretty well for me from time to time. It just depends on how fast you get to them. But you'd be surprised. Sometimes they look completely gone and they'll come right back. Alan says, first of all, congratulations on that, too. I'm glad that worked out. Alan says, I have some aggression issues with my Georgia Giant Bob Whites, less with my Coturnix. Yeah, I've always heard that Bob Whites are a little bit aggressive, too. I've never raised them, so I can't speak to that. Verna says Angora rabbit means more work and no food, and not food, huh? You can't eat Angoras? I guess you could, but CF Deckham says, so when I go to separate them out, do you think 10 females to 2 males in a 4x2 hutch would work? Yeah, that sounds perfect. Yeah, that sounds like a great ratio, and it would work just fine. Costello Hobby Farm says, yeah, my rule has always been if we can't eat it, then we don't need it. But happy wife, happy life, I've been told, LOL. Well, you can't go wrong with that. And nobody says you have to get a ton of them, right? I mean, you could get a couple. But, I've had lots of things I don't eat, lots of pets. I mean, I kind of like animals in general. My dog, for example, I have a dog. I don't eat the dog. David says, I watched a video on overweight rabbits. They suggested going to hay only for a short time. Thoughts? Yeah, if you have issues with it, hay only for a short time can be a good, like if you have issues with like diarrhea or something like that, you can switch them over to hay only for a while. I'm sure it would do well with weight loss too. The biggest thing is don't overfeed your rabbits. I mean, don't just free feed them all the feed that they want because they will overeat and they will gain weight. Joe Sandy says, no calcium supplement. Okay, we already talked that through. So Verna is saying to Costello Hobby Farm, she'll need more equipment than meat rabbits, like the stuff to card the hair, etc. Yeah, I don't know much about, you'd have to get like a loom or something, wouldn't you, to spin it into yarn, I guess? I don't know. Joe Sandy says only 0.5% calcium in the Game Bird starter. Oh, okay. That is a little bit low then. I'm kind of surprised on that. I would expect it to be, I haven't seen very many that are that low. You can offer calcium, as a supplement, but good grief. I don't know exactly what to tell you to do here. I don't know if there's some kind of, some kind of nutrient deficiency maybe they're getting because you're mixing in chicken feed with them, but I wouldn't think that would be the issue, except for you're having this issue with all the vent issues. I don't know what else to point you to, honestly. Trying to think of a good solution for that. Maybe somebody else will come up with one. You might check and see if they can get a different Game Bird starter in for you, your feed store. They may be able to order something in for you. Or if they have maybe like a Game Bird layer or a Game Bird grower that has a higher calcium percent that you can mix in instead of the chicken feed, that may be something to check with too. I don't really know that that's the issue. So, it's just kind of a shot in the dark. Just start eliminating things and seeing if that fixes it. That's the only thing I know to tell you to do. Clint says, I feed 28% protein, 6% fiber starter. For your game birds, or for your quail, that should be okay. I don't know about the fiber requirements. I don't know that that's a big issue, but it should be fine. Really, the two things to really watch for in a game bird starter are going to be or game bird feed in general is going to be the protein and the calcium. And like I said, somewhere around 1.5% calcium, and really 20%-ish or above is best. Verna says people don't seem to remember that with increase of calcium, you need higher fiber. That may be true. I really don't know that. Verna says, blessings, all got to check out as usual on Thursday. Everyone wants to go live the same time. Well, you have a good night, Verna. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Dawn says, I had a dead chick last night. When I came home, I thought it was so cute playing dead chick until it didn't move. Oh, no. Thought I figured out why. A big box I had stacked and fell behind it and scared her. That's probably a pretty good bet. I only giggle because I don't know how many times I've come in and seen the birds like, oh my gosh, they're dead. Oh, then they all jump up and start running around. Yeah, sorry that happened. Hey, there's Brandon from Whiskey Tango Farms. Good to see you. Dawn says, let's see, the box fell behind the brooder and scared it. It ran out of characters. Ran out of characters? Okay. Yeah, that's probably a good bet. Desert Homestead says, watched a Bob Ross episode this week, and he ended the show with, and God bless, immediately thought of you, LOL. I'm not the only one. I mean, but yeah, I appreciate that. But I'm sure I'm not the only one that says that at the end of my videos. I know other people do too. CF Deckham says, I appreciate the advice and info. You guys are the best. Well, thank you. I'm glad you got what you needed out of that. How are we doing on time here? Yeah, we got like 14 minutes left. Man, time flies, doesn't it? V Reason says, hello there. It's my first time and currently have 12 eggs in the incubator. I've made an aviary for them. Would appreciate any tips. Okay, so that's that's a wide open question. Just leaving it all open like that. Do you have specific questions? You can narrow it down a little bit, maybe. That would help. General tips would be they're in the incubator right now. I don't really have anything to, I don't do aviaries, so I'm not the expert on that one necessarily. You are going to want to move them to a brooder, keep them really, keep them about 100 degrees for the first 5 days, about 90 degrees or above for the next probably week until they get fully feathered out. Once they get fully feathered out, you can start dropping that temperature pretty good until they get, to about the same temperature they are outside. And then you can move them outside. But I can't give you a whole lot of advice on the, what do you call it? The aviary itself, because I don't do an aviary. So I don't know. Andy Rabbit says, people do eat Angora rabbits. And Brandon says Angora rabbits are meat breed. I thought so too. Andy Rabbit says all rabbits can be meat breed, even the mini breeds. Well, that's true. I mean, you can eat any of them, I suppose. It's just whether it's worth it or not. Joe Sandy says, I get it from a local feed mill. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if they do a higher protein or a higher percent calcium in a like a game bird layer or something like that. You might ask them about it. They may be able to add calcium to it to you. I don't know. Just check and see what they can do. Worst they can do is say, nope, that's what we got. Take it or leave it. G. Michael Jr. says, question, if you want hay only, like it's the example previously mentioned, after the rabbit gets back to health, would you gradually feed them pellets so they can get used to pellets again? Yeah, really, anytime you switch a rabbit's diet drastically, it's best to do it slowly, but there's not really a big deal going from hay to pellets. I don't think you need to worry about that one too much. Maybe just, give them a little bit of pellets one day, maybe a little bit more the next day, just 2 or 3 days to kind of get back to the normal thing, but that's about it. Dustin says, I have 9 to 10 week old quail that were on chicken layer feed when I got them, slowly switched to game bird starter. They're in a Caternix corner style hutch under a carport, still not getting eggs. What could be the problem? Well, the two big things, let's see, how long have you had them? I guess would be the question. Probably a while because you were slowly switching them over. The two things that cause quail not to lay are typically stress, and moving them from one place to another is stress. So they'll quit laying whenever you move them around, and light. They need 14 hours a day of light in order to start laying eggs. So if you're relying on natural light only under a carport, that could be it. You might try adding a light on, if you have power out there, just put a lamp above them or something, plug it in and put it on a timer so you get the days up to 14 hours a day. I want to say, let's see, what time is it right now? It's 7:50. I think it's dark out right now. So I don't think we're quite up to 14 hours a day of light yet. And that's probably what's causing them to not start laying yet. Joe Sandy says, these are the same quail that lost their back feathers a year ago, and they never grew back. Yeah, that is strange. I wish I knew what to tell you exactly, but I don't. V Reason says, can I get a different type of quail together? Thanks. I don't know what you mean by different types of quail. If you're talking about different types of Coturnix quail, yeah, they're all Coturnix quail. You can mingle them all together, mix them all together. It doesn't really matter. If you're wanting to put like bob whites in with Coturnix, probably not a good idea. They're completely different species, and chances are you're going to have some issues. Now, if you have plenty of room, you might be able to get away with it, but I don't think it's a good idea. CF Deckham says, any tips on what to do with all your quail poop? I'm in an HOA and I'm trying to hide the quail from nosy neighbors. Oh, yeah, that sucks, doesn't it? So, I mean, you could just bag it up, throw it in the trash if you wanted to, or box it up or something like that, or bury it in your yard if you have a place to do that. I usually compost it. I don't know if you're allowed to have a compost pile, but if you have a compost pile, you can just throw it in the compost pile. Those are the only, I mean, that's the only options I know of are those. Desert Homestead says the best tip for beginners is to binge watch Slightly Redneck videos, LOL. I would be lost without them. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Emma Ball, good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's see. Old Colony Gardens says to Joe Sandy, give them calcium in a separate feeder. They know what they need and will eat if they need it. Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, you can't always just give crushed oyster shell or even, dried crushed egg shells or something like that. Don't mix it in with the feed. Just put it in a separate feeder because he's right. They'll self-regulate. Say he, maybe she, I don't know. But Brandon says just over 13 hours a day for us up here in Wisconsin. Yeah, it's pretty close of light. Yeah, I knew what you meant. Yeah, we're getting pretty close to that, but I don't think we're quite there yet. So maybe, especially under a carport, that may diminish the amount of light they're getting just a little bit. So you may try to add some light, and that will probably get them laying. Give them about a week or two, and they should be laying. Don says to CF Deckham, I am stealth here and use big black trash bags and dump the pans twice a week. There you go. That's probably the only option you got, really. CF Deckham says, thanks, Don. Would be interested in seeing your stealth setup. I made a hutch and have it under one of the kids' play structures to camouflage it in. Old Colony Garden says, you're right, I assumed that initially for some reason. I don't really know why, but I wasn't sure. Don says, I have my cages on a screened-in back porch. Andy Rabbit says, if you have flow beds, I think it's flower beds, or raised beds, dig a hole and bury the quail poop. Keep it a little way away from the plants, which would probably work, but I think you're going to run out of room pretty quick with that. But I don't know. Alan says, are you starting a garden this year? I don't know how much I'm going to garden this year. I may just give them a rest. Give the land a rest for a year. I'll probably plant a few things, but I'm not going to go probably too crazy with it this year. I just need a break. I've been gardening pretty hard the last couple of years, and I didn't have real good results last year. The last 2 years, actually, been a little bit of a struggle, dealing with a lot of blight issues, some garden pest issues that, and honestly, a lot of it's just me finding the time to get out there and do things with it, take care of it. But I'll probably just take a break this year for the most part. I'll probably plant a few things, grow a few little things, maybe a tomato plant or two. I don't know, but not big garden this year. I'm going to let the ground rest for a while. I always think back to, the Bible in the Old Testament, talks about every 7 years you should, give your land a rest and, the Jubilee basically. And I'm thinking maybe there's some wisdom in that. So I'm going to probably do that. All right, how are we doing on time? We got like 6 minutes left. Chat's kind of slowed down. I don't know if I said something that made everybody stop. I think we're still connected. There we go. Special Case says, in the summertime, black soldier fly eat all my manure up. Yeah, they do a great job. You're right. I usually get black soldier fly in the summer, and they compost that stuff down. I mean, it's fantastic. It's so good. It's my favorite. I don't have to do hardly any cleaning. Andy Rabbit says, I'm eating dinner. I don't know if that was in a response to me saying the chat has slowed down. Maybe that's why, because you're eating dinner. Or if you're saying you're eating dinner because of the talk about fly, the black soldier fly eating all the manure, probably not great dinner conversation. But Dustin says, thoughts on RHCP cover of Higher Ground. I'm not sure. What is RHCP? What is that? RHCP cover. Is that, I'm getting Red Hot Chili Pepper covers. That's probably not what you're talking about, is it? If that is, I'm not a big Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, but I don't think that's what you mean. So I'm not real sure what that means. G. Michael Jr. says, oh, that is what you mean. Their cover of the song Higher Ground just hit me. Oh my goodness. Red Hot Chili Peppers, the cover of the Higher Ground, Stevie Wonder song Higher Ground. Yeah, that threw me off. The way that took a while. It's okay. I like Stevie Wonder versions better. Stevie Wonder's version better, but theirs is pretty good actually. Not a big Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. I think that's probably one of their, better songs. And I mean, I see they have talent, but they're just not my favorite band. All right. G. Michael says, do you have any canning or other, do you do any canning or other food preservations? Yeah, I do a lot of canning. I do a lot of canning usually. But some dehydrating, a lot of freezing, of course. But most of my canning, like vegetables, most of them I just can. So I do both water bath and pressure canning. I can chicken broth all the time, or any kind of stock. I'll can that stuff. So yeah, I do a lot of that. Don says, so if I dumped pine shavings with manure in a pile in the summer, would black soldier fly compost it down too? I could test a spot. It's possible. I mean, if you get black soldier fly, then yeah, they'll do a pretty good job of composting that stuff. If you dump, now I don't know, honestly, if you try to, if you mix it with wood, it might get pretty hot, too hot for them. It's worth trying and see. I don't ever compost that stuff in the summer because the black soldier flies just keep my manure pile under control. I don't have any left to compost necessarily. Joe Sandy says, the bunny I got is pedigree. I was not looking for that at all, but was the only one near me. He has a tattoo in his ear. There's nothing wrong with that. If you decide to get another one and you do breeding, then you'll have the pedigree and get another pedigree. They sell for more. And Andy Rabbit says, yes, Don, they will. I do it all the time. Well, there you go. Yeah, black soldier fly are one of the best things to have. So we're at 3 minutes left. Let's see what we can get done in 3 minutes. Don says, is the pine shavings I'm wondering about dumping in a pile and probably in the shade? Yeah, probably the shade would be a little bit better for it too. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know whether the pine shavings would bother them at all. My only thought about pine shavings mixed with quail manure is that it's going to start breaking down just because of nitrogen-carbon combination. And compost piles, when they're in active compost, they get hot, really hot. But I'm sure it would still be okay. Farmer Marshall says, hey, Chris, they should call quail flying pigs because they are so sloppy. As you said, my new chicks need a maid for their brooders. Yeah, no kidding. They are messy. You're absolutely right. Joe Sandy says, are black soldier flies a nuisance fly around? House flies are so annoying. No, black soldier fly is totally different. You hardly ever see the actual flies themselves. They're actually way better than house flies because they lay their eggs. Their grubs are significantly bigger, or their larva is significantly bigger than regular fly maggot. They seem to drive all the flies out, and they actually seem to keep my fly population down. And you hardly ever see the black soldier flies. You look them up; they don't look like a regular fly. They look almost like a wasp, kind of a small wasp, I guess. But they're not at all a nuisance. Dustin says, how old should does be for breeding? What issues come with waiting too long? Okay, so real quick, let's see. We got 1 minute left. This may be the last one I get in, but we'll see what I can do here. Real quick, about 6 months old or about 80% of their adult weight, whichever comes first. So if it's going to be a 10-pound rabbit, wait till it gets to be about 88 pounds and at least 6 months old, roughly. That's when you want to start breeding them, or the soonest you would want to breed them. Try to get them bred before they get to be a year old. If they go a whole year without being bred, they can be difficult to get them to breed, and sometimes you run into issues with difficult getting them to have successful litters because of fat buildup on their ovaries and stuff like that. So try to breed them between 6 months and a year old. Hopefully that makes sense. And let's see. Randy says, what's the minimum percent of protein and calcium for jumbo line once they're adults for meat and eggs? You don't know if there's a minimum. The calcium really about 1.5% should be about the minimum calcium in there. Protein, you could probably get away with. I mean, there's plenty of people that do it at like 17, 18% protein. I personally don't like to go below 20%. All right, guys, I got to wrap this one up. We are out of time. So, well, let's see. Yeah, I got to wrap this one up, guys. Sorry if I didn't get to your chat. Looks like they're still coming in. But it was a good time hanging out with everybody. I should be back next week. Don't have any reason why I can't be. And we'll see you guys then. So as always, God bless.